Hey there Mountaineers, I'm Matterhorn Matt, and welcome to episode 5 of Historyland. Alright guys, first things first, I wanted to thank you all for 300 subscribers. It's so hard to believe that 300 of you love watching my videos. Your support means the world to me. In this episode, we'll be talking about the Walt Disney classic, Carousel of Progress. Let's get started. One of the things Walt was most known for was having a very keen vision of the future, a world on the move, a hopeful and optimistic future. He loved predicting and building the future he saw, whether that be in his technology in the parks or his unbuilt concepts for Epcot.
We call it Epcot, spelled E-P-C-O-T.
This mindset flourished when he built Tomorrowland and Disneyland, as he could implement whatever he saw fit as futuristic and helpful to society. This also extended to Main Street, where he envisioned a mini-land called Edison Square. Edison Square would have been built off to the right of Main Street, and would house arguably one of the most important attractions in Disney history. The show would be hosted by an electromechanical man named Wilbur K. Watt, and would detail the history of electricity in the home, going through the 19th century to the present and beyond. But the idea of Edison Square was never built, mostly because the technology available at the time wasn't up to par with what Walt had in mind. But in 1964, he had a new way to bring his idea to life, one that would change the course of theme park history forever.
Coming up next, learn about Disney history with Matterhorn Matt on Historyland.
Come on, gang. This year, everyone wins at Disneyland. Right, Mickey? Right. We've got RCA TVs, Mickey Mouse watches, hurry up, collectible pins, PSA tickets, and Kodak cameras, popcorn, and passports, even 1986 Pontiac Firebirds. So what's that mean? Everyone wins every day! I don't hear you! Everyone wins every day!
Like I mentioned in episode 1 of Historyland on the People Mover, Walt was commissioned in 1963 to construct 4 attractions for the 1964-65 New York World's Fair. He reached back to the Edison Square concept and, when pitched to the sponsor, General Electric, they loved it. This is where Walt turned to his newly developed audio animatronics, which were already in use in Walt Disney's Enchanted Tiki Room in Adventureland.
Now, to accomplish this, we created a new type of animation. So new that we had to invent a new name for it.
Audio animatronics?
Right, audio animatronics.
Imagineers led by Robert E. Boogie and Bob Gurr developed the Carousel Theater, which would rotate so the audience never had to get up and move to the next scene.
Here, for example, is a scale model of the General Electric Carousel Theater. A theater in which the audience itself moves in their seats around the stages.
Walt also commissioned the Sherman brothers to write a theme song for the attraction, and they later came up with the classic There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, which they said was Walt's theme song since he was so optimistic about the future and technology. When the show opened, it wasn't called the Carousel of Progress, it was called Progress Land, and was one of the most visited pavilions in the World's Fair. The attraction rotated clockwise around 6 stages, each representing the 1890s, the 1920s, the 1940s, and the 1960s, and 2 were used for load and unload. The attraction could load and unload 200 guests every 4 minutes, and at the end of the show, guests moved to the 2nd floor of the attraction to witness General Electric's Sky Dome Spectacular, which projected images of nature and energy onto the domed roof of the pavilion. The attraction was an instant hit with guests, and many wondered what would happen to the attraction once the World's Fair was over. But Walt already knew exactly what he wanted to do with the ride.
Coming up next, learn about Disney history with Matterhorn Matt on Historyland.
Splash Mountain. It may look peaceful and fun, but the only way out is a long way Splash Mountain at Disneyland.
In 1967, Disney had the newly named Carousel of Progress moved to Disneyland as part of the new Tomorrowland renovation, with General Electric returning as a sponsor. A nearly identical theater was built, and, minus a few changes, it was nearly identical to the original World's Fair version. The major difference was the post-show in the upper building of the theater that housed the Progress City model, which was based on Walt's original concept for Epcot. Unfortunately, there aren't any photos that exist of this, at least not that I could find. But what I could find are these two photos from the World's Fair version, and these models from Imagineeringdisney.com. There in the center you can see the Progress City model, along with the People Mover in the background. This Act 5 was hosted by the father and mother, detailing various features of the city model, which were animated and fully functional with miniature cars, monorails, people movers, and carnival rides. But a strange decision by General Electric to relocate the attraction changed Disneyland and Tomorrowland forever.
Coming up next, learn about Disney history with Matterhorn Matt on Historyland.
Come be together at Disney. These are times you'll always treasure. Now your dreams come true. Golden days that last forever, shining just for you. The joy that's all around you, share the dream come true. Together at Disney.
In 1973, General Electric decided to move the Carousel of Progress to the Magic Kingdom in Walt Disney World. They believed that the attraction was not getting any new viewers, since they found out that 80% of the people who saw the attraction were people who lived in California. So, Disney packed up the attraction from Anaheim.
It's big. It's pretty big. It's amazing how that whole big thing just turned around like a big wheel.
And it reopened in 1975 in Florida. One of the major changes from the Disneyland version and the World's Fair version was that the theater in the Magic Kingdom rotated counterclockwise instead of clockwise, and the second story was home to the Tomorrowland Transit Authority track. And the Progress City model was cut into pieces, and only a small portion remains above Stitch's Great Escape, only visible from the TTA. A new song was also created by the Sherman brothers called The Best Time of Your Life.
Now is the time, now is the best time, now is the best time of your life. Life is a prize, live every minute, open your eyes and watch how you win.
Which was eventually replaced by the original song, There's a Great Big Beautiful Tomorrow, in 1993. The attraction has since only had minor upgrades and refurbishments. Now, many people think of Horizons and Epcot as a sequel to the Carousel of Progress, which goes through how a family might live in the 21st century from a 1980s perspective. But fans of the Carousel of Progress will never forget the memories they have of the attraction and its impact on the Disneyland park and other Disney parks as well. And that just about does it for the history of the Carousel of Progress. I hope you all enjoyed this episode. I had a blast making it since the Carousel of Progress is one of my personal favorite attractions in the Magic Kingdom. If you enjoyed this video, be sure to like, subscribe, and share with all your Disney-loving friends. Also, comment down below what new scene you'd like to see added to the ride. Be sure to turn on notifications so you don't miss any of my videos. And also, go check out my last podcast with Rob Plays.
I mean, there's got to be animals, right? That's the big thing, because it's the park's namesake. So maybe if they had a movie where it was like not a mythical creature, like a mythical animal, like I don't know, not Bigfoot maybe, but you know, something on that level where they're just looking for this, you know, fabled creature, and that could be the sort of animal tie-in, and it'd almost be like somewhat of a callback to the Beastly Kingdom, which was supposed to be the part of the park that focused on the mythical creatures that don't really exist, like dragons and stuff.
Yeah, and I could just picture Indiana Jones punching the living crap out of a Bigfoot, and I would totally be down with that.
You and I both.
I had a blast recording with him. Links to my Twitter and Patreon account are in the description. Have a great big beautiful tomorrow.